Today we're going to be comparing three different espresso machines. We have the Flair Pro 2, the Cafelat Robot, the Barista Edition with the pressure gauge, and then the Flair 58 espresso machine. So first off, I just want to say welcome to Cabene's Coffee Corner. This channel is designed to help you choose the coffee gear you want to brew with at home. If you could please do me a favor and please like and subscribe. This really helps me produce more content. If you're looking at purchasing any of these, please use the link below where I'll make a slight commission at no extra charge to you. I also have an Instagram account called Cabene's Coffee Corner, and you're more than welcome to follow me there as well. Let's go ahead and dive into it. So the interesting thing about this is we have the Flair Pro 2. I think it's $309. We have the Barista Edition Cafelat Robot, which is $450. And then we have the very expensive, I guess it's not that expensive. It's relative to who is watching. But the $529 Flair 58 espresso machine. When I look at all three of these things, I see a lot of similarities and differences, but also a lot of benefits to having each and every single one of these, and they all have their pros and their cons. So I just want to go over a few of the features. We have a 46 millimeter basket, I believe 46 millimeter basket for the Flair Pro 2. It's got a nice little spout option. It's got a preheat cap, so you can preheat it fairly easily like that. A nice, easy to view pressure gauge and a lever that you can pull with one arm. The robot has these two arms here. These are 3D printed robot hands that cost about $30 if you buy the ones that Cafelat has. They have almost a 58 millimeter portafilter basket, but it's not quite that big. It's like 57.5, which I'll get into a little bit later on why that is. It's got the screen here that goes on top of the basket, and it's got the tamper, which again, this 3D printed part you can buy separately, or you just get the standard tamper that doesn't make it as level as a tamp. The pressure gauge is small and goes here. I have modded it with the naked portafilter pressure gauge here, which I can also add the SEP here. And we got a little tamping mat slash drip tray, and then I added the piece of leather to make it a flatter surface here. The Flair 58, we have the main difference between this one and all the other ones that has this heating element here. This is the switch spot adapter, so I can turn this on via Bluetooth if I want to. It's got a preheat cap just like the Flair does too if you don't want to use the heating element for some reason. And it's got the 58 millimeter tamper here that fits the portafilter well. Again, same pressure gauge as the Pro. And it's got a 58. The main difference is it has a commercial size 58 millimeter portafilter, which means you can use any basket basically you want that's for a 58 millimeter portafilter, any tamper, any distribution tool. So let's go ahead and dive into the pros and cons of all of them, because I've owned all of these and I sold one of these. So let's kind of dive into why I sold one versus the other, and what regrets I may have, and which ones I would choose again if I had to purchase one and just one at the beginning. I would say this one probably, when it comes to shot quality, they're all going to do great and you're going to do good shots through all of them. The Flair Pro 2 is probably the weakest link on all of that, and the reason why it's the weakest link is because the amount of preheating and the temperature of the shot that you get out. You have to preheat a lot of parts, and you have to find a lot of different tricks to do that, and that's kind of what, like, I can never get as hot of a shot with this as I can this or this, which really affects your cup more than you think it would on that. This one I don't do any preheating for. And this one obviously has the preheating mechanism on the inside. You still have to fill it up with a kettle as well. This one is by far the best travel-friendly one, because you can get it it comes with this case for $309. So if you plan on traveling a ton, this is probably the way to go. I find the ergonomics of simply using a machine the Flair has done a better job than the robot for that. It's so much easier to pull a shot with one hand or two hands using the lever, and it feels more comfortable than grabbing onto the skinny arms that is the robot and pulling the shot. That's where these little handles come in handy, but again, you have to spend $450 for the machine and then another $30 for the handle, which is already putting you at $480. The basket on this makes it kind of hard to tamp level on compared to a traditional machine, and they made this self-leveling tamper, which is going to add you another $50. So right there, you're already almost at Flair Pro or the Flair 58 territory if you just simply buy these two accessories to make the simple and ease of use better for this. And that doesn't fix my biggest problem of the pressure gauge and where it was placed on the side. This was a very expensive add-on because I got the attachment for the Smart Espresso Profiler, also made by the same company as that, which I can put on all these machines as I pull shots. So there's like a lot of complications with this, but it does give a good shot. I'm not sure which one, and I'm going to need more time. I haven't decided which one gives a better shot, the Flair 58 or the robot. I just simply haven't had them both long enough side by side to compare them. I've had this for 6 months now. I've had this for a few weeks, and this pulls phenomenal shots, and I can easily tell that they pull better shots than the Flair Pro because of the temper stability. But I really want to do some more and spend some more time comparing these side by side. And that video is coming, so subscribe, and I will tell you which one I prefer the shot quality of, but I just need simply more time to do that. I didn't feel confident enough to be able to fully give you my opinion on that. When it comes to workflow and use of everything, I'm going to give it to the robot. The reason why I want to give it to the robot is because you simply put your grounds in here, you tamp in here, you put your dispersion screen on in here, and then you fill it up with water and you lock it in like a traditional portafilter. And then when you're done, you lift up the arms and pull it out, and then you simply knock the puck out in the sink or in your knock box. Here, the reason why I'm going to give it a better workflow than the 58 is because the 58 you have to purge through your shot, because the water is stored in here if you don't purge. So what I mean by purge is you pull your shot, pull the lever down. It's a little hard to pull the lever up because it's attached to the brew head, which is a great feature. But you pull your shot, you're done pulling your shot, you have to pull the handle back up, and you have to push through all that excess water in there, because if you don't do that and you unlock the portafilter, water will dump everywhere. So you have to have a second cup to make 1 cup of coffee just to do that excess purge. So I give the robot the plus for workflow because you don't have to do that extra purge. And honestly, just like I do for the Flair Pro, I just make my coffee and I just kind of put this by the sink and just knock it out later when there's no hot heat or anything from the machine, and I'll do it when I get home from work as part of my routine then, instead of in the morning on my way to work. So that's just kind of how I personally use it. When you're pulling a shot with this, it's easier to see everything with the Flair Pro. You can easily see the gauge, you can easily see the cup, you can easily read the scale because of the angle you're pulling at. When it comes to the robot, you're limited on where you can put the scale because of the fact when you're pulling, if you have a lunar scale, it doesn't quite fit perfectly in here, and you have to put it diagonally, which it fits a lot better on here. It fits the best here when you're talking about the Kai lunar scale. But you're kind of limited in this space, and when you're pulling a shot, I notice I kind of actually end up looking over the machine because that's where I naturally see the pressure gauge as I'm using force on my arms, which means I'm looking at the pressure gauge here, the timer's here. It's kind of a mess when it comes to viewing everything at once. I think these are pretty much identical. These two are pretty much identical in the size of things, and it just feels more comfortable to pull a shot with these. But I'm getting a better quality of shot with this than I am with this, as I should, because it's a $150 price point more than this. So I'm going to get this is kind of how I'm going to tell you what to buy here, because it kind of really depends on who you are and what you want to do with it. Like I said, all these machines are great. I've had no problems with any of them. I've had like little tweaks, like this has a lot of parts, but you get used to it. The heating and preheating is a little complicated, but there's works and hacks around to it. Like I just ended up dropping this on my kettle and put the preheat cap on the top of it and preheat that way. This one, people preheat. I don't preheat. It's your opinion on whether you want to preheat it or not, but it just feels uncomfortable to kind of use. And the build quality is great. I don't like the gauge. The gauge is the most annoying thing for it, and it's annoying because I've heard so many people say that this is a 58 millimeter portafilter. It's not a 58 millimeter portafilter, and here's how I know this. This is a 58 millimeter tamper. This is a 58 millimeter basket. Fits in the basket here, which means it's going to fit in any 58 millimeter basket. So if this was 58, that should drop in there, but it does not. So therefore, you cannot buy any special, like you can't buy any stock 58 millimeter accessories and use it with the robot. I felt misinformed by some people on that because it is almost a 58 millimeter basket, but it's not quite there, and it causes just enough problems with that you can't do it. So the workflow is awkward. The feel of it, the using it, it's awkward, but it's compact, it's nice, it's easy, and it's really well built. So I'm mixed emotions about the robot because I actually do like it better than the Flair Pro 2 in some ways that I've used. So when I'm looking at this, if you're planning on traveling, Flair Pro 2 hands down. If you're planning on traveling a good amount of time but still brewing at home, still Flair Pro 2 hands down. If you're looking at brewing at home, but you honestly, I don't really see a full reason to buy a robot now. I think unless you can't squeeze out the $80 that it takes to get the Flair 58, or maybe you're in a point where you want a better machine at home than the Flair Pro 2 of shot quality, but you still want to travel, then maybe the robot's the best way to do it. But overall, like, this has its travel friendly. This is the best for sitting on the counter, but there's not a good one that's the best for traveling and the best for sitting on the counter and the best all around one. This is probably closest because you can travel with it. But there's also this, like, for the fact it's like this is, it's small, it's lightweight, it's not lightweight, it's built well, it's small, so I could theoretically just throw this in a bag and it wouldn't be as protected as this would be in a case, but it's going to be easy to just simply shove that basket back on there. It's kind of hard to do when I'm sitting at this angle, but just shove the basket back on there, lift up the arms and push it down, and there you go. You're good to travel with it. Just maybe put a couple of t-shirts in your luggage bag and it should be all right. The gauge, since it's built on here, it's not going anywhere versus my weird gauge. So you could travel with it. So maybe if you traveled like once a week out of a year and you're driving somewhere and you're not flying and you really want to bring an espresso machine with you, maybe this is the one you want to buy because this is going to work well on your counter. It makes a good shot and things like this, and this one isn't going to be as easy to travel with, but it's going to give you probably the best workflow. And like, I don't know, I have a hard time with this because they all have their drawbacks and they all have their pros. Like, if I'm putting one on my counter and it's staying on my counter, it's going to be this one hands down because of the preheat mechanism in the 58 millimeter portafilter. The 58 millimeter portafilter is huge. I already have a ton of different tampers and distribution tools from my heat exchanger machine that I can now use with this. So this is going to stay on my counter. This is what I'm going to want. And then I had this problem with like whether I wanted to choose the Flair or the robot at one point, and I was like, I ended up choosing the robot to keep at home and get rid of this and sell it to a friend, and I kind of regret that decision because this is the best travel one versus this, but this is the best one for my office over that for ease of workflow and things like that. So it's a really tough thing in, like, the robot's almost kind of out of place because it's a little clunky for me. I don't like having the two arms. It doesn't feel comfortable to use. I hate the pressure gauge. I feel like you have to buy that this tamper accessory in there. So unless you 3D print it or buy it yourself, you have to buy the hands. Then you're almost at the 58 range. I don't know. I struggle a lot with kind of making this decision on which one I like the best for what reason. Like, I feel like this one's almost the best all-around one in a lot of ways because you can throw it in a bag and it's less finicky to use, but the comfort level of using this is better than the robot. The shot quality is better on this one. The usability is better on this one. This one just looks cooler, has the wooden accents, and has all the accessories that I possibly want in this heating element. And all of it, it's almost a headache of which one to choose on it. But I can tell you this. I don't think you'd be disappointed with any of these. I think all of these make great espresso. I think you should be aware that this one is $309, and the shot quality is still great on it. But it's not as good as the $450 one, and for $150 it shouldn't be. But when you're at $450, I think it's almost a no-brainer to spend $80 and get the Flair. Unless you want the best all-around machine and you do plan on traveling with it, but you want better quality, then you could put this somewhere and bring it somewhere with you. This base even bolts off here. It's not going anywhere on your counter. I don't know. Maybe I'll travel with it this summer and I'll let you know how that works. Because this is gone. I don't have this anymore. A friend let me borrow it briefly for this video. That was one of our contingencies on if I sell it. I need some time with it once I get my 58 in. These are great machines. Be happy with them. If you have this one, you might not want to sell it when you upgrade to the 58. I think you will want to upgrade to the 58 with it. With the robot, I don't know if it's necessarily worth upgrading to the 58 from the robot. It just kind of depends on if you feel the same way about the pressure gauge and if those accessories are a big deal to you. Because it is nice that it doesn't have cords and it has good heat retention. So I give it that. But one thing that's coming up is I'm going to compare this at $450 with this without the cable. And because without that cable and without that electricity, the Flair 58 is called the 58X, and the price starts at $450. So you're at the same price as the robot as you are the 58 without the heating element, and that's going to be the question. So remember, please subscribe and find out which one I like the better shot qualities as I pull some more and experiment with it. And we're going to compare this head from head, the workflow of preheating this and doing the 58X versus the robot coming soon. If you have any questions on any of these machines, or if there's something that I didn't cover for you that you wish I would have, let me know in the comments below, and I'd love to answer any questions you have about any of these products. None of this is sponsored. I paid retail price for all these things. I didn't get any benefit from Flair for giving them a good review. I didn't get anything from Robot or Cafelat to do a review on this. But I'm happy with all these machines. I think you do need the pressure gauge from Smart Espresso Profiler or Naked Portafilter. That's their website for the pressure gauge. I think that's worth the investment for it if you're going to keep the robot long term. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts and my concerns with all of these machines here, and I hope you found this video helpful. And remember, please like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching this video.